Thank you for coming. My name is Michael Beck. We don't know, I'm the District Building Commissioner, so I'm glad to see as many people as we have. Just to level set this meeting, those bridges are just concepts. There's no design done. There's no plans to build anything. The 15th Avenue Bridge is coming to the end of its life. It's got 5 years left or so, so we have to start planning now for its replacement. So what this is to get your input as into what you like. These are just options. These are not set in stone or anything like that. This whole meeting is just to get your feedback. We've spoken many times. I am not for a huge monstrosity of a bridge, those railways and all of that stuff. Because they gave me something that they built in House Point in 2021. So I'll ask the city manager to take a look at that, find out what we can do. Because I understand this is a community. I also understand, there are not sidewalks all over the place, so to put a sidewalk just in that bridge makes no sense. My direction to the city manager was to make sure that this is something that fits the aesthetics of the community as a whole, not just those 4 floors. I don't want something that's going to infiltrate the entire property of those 4 houses either. So I just want everybody to understand that. This is 3 different options and different concepts that we're going to go over, and we're going to get everybody's feedback so that we can start the design process. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and see the manager. We can have questions at the end.
Good evening. My name is David Santucci. Many of you were at the previous workshops where we discussed this bridge back in 2021. Okay, great. So I think just to kind of recap what happened there at those meetings, at that point in time, we had an incident on the bridge and we closed the bridge. So that kind of sparked an additional conversation of what we need to do with 2 bridges at 13th and 15th. We recently completed the reconstruction or the repairs to the 13th Ave Bridge, and that's doing well now. The bridge really is the 15th Ave Bridge from a public safety perspective, public traffic and transportation system, things like that. The idea is to, as Commissioner Hudak said, the bridge is close to its useful life, and Mrs. Gelnick will go through that a little bit further and talk to you about the degradation of the bridge over the past few years and why it's important to look at the replacement of the bridge. Come up with some design concepts, and the design concepts that you're seeing today really meant to show to maximize the multimodal traffic options that are available. And we know that there are going to be some conversation here. I really want your input into what you would like to see in the neighborhood. Make it clear that this is a neighborhood bridge, right? And that's what we want to keep it as. Nobody's trying to, first of all, no matter what we do to the bridge, nothing's going to change with the existing roadway. It's not going to become 2 lanes. It's not going to become something that it's not. It's a neighborhood. We know that people, don't cut through, things like that. That's something that really can prevent, but certainly monitor. But the idea here is to make sure that this bridge is designed for the neighborhood. It's designed for local traffic. It's designed for the pedestrians. And it's designed for bicyclists. So as we go through these options, we're really looking for your input. For tonight. We have some options that we'd like to put out in the survey, but based on some additional feedback we get tonight, maybe we'll have some, look at some other things. But I just want to, again, temper the expectations of what this is and what this isn't, and for sure that's absolutely right. We haven't designed anything. So I'm showing you some templates of what we could do, and want to share the reason why some of these options exist and what they do from the traffic management, and more importantly, a safety perspective for multiple traffic, meaning both cars, bicyclists, and pedestrians. So with that, I'll hand it over to Priscilla, who will walk us through this stuff.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate you coming out tonight. Let's go up to the first slide, please. So tonight's agenda, we are here to discuss three options. And as the city manager discussed, we're trying to look at how to design this bridge for the future and design for multiple modes of transportation. Okay, so the objective here is to find out, do we want shared use paths? Do we want to incorporate sidewalks? These are the questions that we're asking. We do need to have a clear zone, okay, so there is a recovery area that's necessary for these bridges so that we aren't having folks hitting the guardrail. I don't know if you recall the reason why the bridge was shut down temporarily back in 2020, but it was because the bridge width today is what we call functionally obsolete. The geometry of the bridge is not wide enough. Okay? So what happened was we had, I believe it was a younger driver, inexperienced driver, and he hit the guardrail, and that created a structural deficiency on the bridge. We had to shut down the bridge until repairs could be made. Mr. McLennan, Wayne McLennan, is here tonight. He's the same design engineer who helped us with the initial repair plan for the bridge in 2021. And because of the firm's familiarity with the bridge, they've also been the ones who have performed significant inspections across the board on state bridges. They were selected as the most qualified consultant to provide us designs that plans for the future of this bridge. So we've asked them here today. The intent of tonight is really to give us guidance moving forward so that we can prepare what's called a basis of design report that's going to guide the development of these plans so that we can get to a construction set of documents. Our end goal is next year we want to have a full set of construction documents that we can put on the street, out to bidders, receive successful bids, competitive bids, and to reconstruct this bridge. And so tonight we're going to talk about three options that we have available to you. We've also prepared a survey. But once this meeting is concluded, we will put this meeting on the city's website. We will make the survey available for folks to poll their choices. So I would advise you, if your neighbors or your friends weren't able to make it out tonight, you can tell them to visit our city website. They can find a recording of tonight's meeting, as well as a link to the survey so that they can thicker. So next slide, please. So here's my contact information. Please feel free to take note of this. You can also find information on our city website. Feel free to reach out to me, contact me via email or.
Can you keep that up there for a second?
And you'll see a photograph of our existing bridge. I do want to point out a few things in this photograph while you're taking down this information. You see the seawall. The seawall is, horrible rock, riprap wall. The seawall is significantly degraded adjacent to the bridge. So part of our scope tonight is not just the replacement of the bridge, but addressing that seawall within the limits of what the city owns, the city's rights of way. We can't go beyond the city rights of way. Private property owners are responsible for the walls adjacent to their properties. The city has responsibility for the seawalls that are constructed within our city's rights of way. Next slide. Here's the location of the bridge. Southeast 15th Avenue between 6th Street and 7th Street. And as I just indicated, what we're showing here in plan view is the existing bridge to be replaced, as well as the concrete seawall replacement. Next slide. So the reason that we're here tonight, this bridge undergoes annual inspection. The state is responsible for looking at every bridge in the state, assessing the condition of these bridges. Okay, so on an annual basis, we get a report for this bridge. Most bridges, it's every 2 years, but this bridge in particular is every year, and that's because of the deficiencies of this bridge. Okay. Now, in the past 2 years, superstructure has come back with an NBI 4. That's a 4 rating. Okay. And that automatically triggers replacement. And at that point, once you get a 4 rating, getting phone calls from FDOT asking, what's your plan for this bridge? And I've been getting those phone calls for 2 years now, and at that point when I started getting the phone calls, that's when we went out and solicited consultants to look at placement for this bridge. We have funding in place, we have consultants on board, we have our consultants now in place. Now we're going to start the design with your input. So here's the information on our bridge. It's functionally obsolete. I mentioned briefly what that means. It means that the deck geometry, the width of this bridge, does not meet today's standards for bridges. Deck NBI is fair, the superstructure is poor, the substructure is fair. We have a sufficiency rating of 15.6. It's really bad. That sufficiency rating, anything below an 85 is not good. The health index of 58. We have a restriction on weight. That is significant because if you know what our fire trucks are loaded at, those are 35 tons. Okay, we can't take a fire truck over this bridge. Right? That's important because this is actually considered a critical route for fire response. Okay, so one of the things that we want to improve is remove the weight restrictions so that we can have fire and rescue in the future. Next slide. So we briefly talked about what some of the terminology means. Structurally deficient means the bridge needs to undergo a series of repairs within 6 years. We received a structural deficiency 2 years ago. Okay, so we have 4 more years for compliance. This is per FDOT standard policy, okay? That's FDOT policy, and the recommendation is that localities adopt the same. Obviously, we would want to follow that policy because who would want to put their city and their community at risk? Next slide. Functionally obsolete. It does not meet the road design criteria. The health index, this is a tool that measures the overall condition of the bridge. The health index means that work would be required to improve the bridge, and a health index below 85 indicates that repairs are needed. The sufficiency rating, also a tool that's used to determine whether a bridge is structurally deficient, functionally obsolete, should be repaired or replaced. As I indicated, our indices and our ratings are very low, which indicates replacement. Beyond repair, okay, it's not a condition of repair, we're definitely in replacement. I will take questions at the end. Let me get through the presentation and we will open the floor to questions after. So just hold on to your questions for right now. Next slide, please. So the geometric features today, our span length is not going to change because we're still spanning the same width of the channel of the canal. So that's 26 feet. So what's existing is 26 feet. What's proposed is 26 feet. What is going to change is the deck width of the bridge. So the bridge today is 23 feet wide. As discussed, its geometry is functionally obsolete. It's not wide enough. So we're coming back with a proposed 44.7 foot wide bridge. The speed limit will be unchanged. Okay? The configuration of this roadway is unchanged. It's still going to be a 2-lane undivided roadway. Today it's 2 lanes undivided. Tomorrow it's going to be 2 lanes undivided. Excellent. Where are we right now? So we've just retained Trans-Systems, who's our engineer of record. They are preparing the basis of design report. But before they can proceed with the design of the bridge, we need to know what this bridge going to look like. You know, what amenities, what are we asking the community that they want for this bridge? And that's why we're here tonight, for them to be able to complete their basis of design report. That basis of design report feeds into a permit set of drawings, and that gets submitted to our jurisdictional agencies. Now, the city does not determine the elevation of the bridge. The jurisdictional agencies that determine the elevation of the bridge are set by flood maps, the FEMA flood maps. So the lowest chord member, and when I say chord, it means that lowest elevation of that bridge needs to be above the flood elevation. Okay. For bridges, typically those are considered critical structures, and they say base flood elevation. So whatever that flood elevation is, +2 because it's a critical structure. So typically that's the criteria that we fall in. So we cannot be below that. Okay. That's the minimum criteria that's set for flood. Okay, so that we're not creating a hardship upstream, we're creating flooding by creating a bottleneck downstream. Okay, so that's the whole purpose of floodways, is making sure that we're not creating the bottleneck and flooding your neighbors upstream. Okay, so we do have to maintain the floodways. We have to ensure that the elevation of the bridge meets the flood elevation criteria, that we're meeting the design storm. Okay. So that's going to be determined in our permitting stage. We won't be able to tell you today what the elevation of that bridge is until we've been through the jurisdictional agencies who weigh in with what elevation that is. Once we get through permitting, they do go to finalizing the construction sets so that we can make it bid ready and get it ready for contractors to bid on. So that'll be happening. We're looking at towards the end of 24, the start of 25. Once we have a completed construction set of documents and all permits are in place, it's to put the documents on the street and go to construction. Next slide, please. Construction is being planned for funding in fiscal year 26. Fiscal year 26 begins October 1, 2025. That would be the earliest that we would possibly have the financing and the funding in place to fund the replacement of this bridge. And today, our estimate for this bridge is $2.3 million. It would be, an approximation based on what other bridges today have costs of this nature to replace. We are looking at potentially 14 to 18 months of construction for its replacement. During the duration of construction, we will not have a bridge in place. It will have to be demolished and we'll have to use our detours. So the city has done repairs to the 13th Avenue Bridge. We replaced the bridge deck entirely on the 13th Avenue Bridge. It's a 3-minute detour to use 13th Avenue in lieu of 15th Avenue. So that 13th Avenue Bridge is going to be the detour, as well as 12th Avenue should you choose. Okay, so these are optional alternatives to 15th Avenue during construction. Next slide, please. And this is a plan view of what that impact is and what that looks like within the existing city rights of way. As mentioned, the city right of way in this location is 80 feet. What we discussed is this bridge is going to be 44.7 feet wide. Okay, so we're not taking the full 80 feet. Okay, we don't need to build, as the city manager indicated, we don't need to build a 4-lane, divided roadway in this location. We don't need the full 80. And what we do need is 44.7 to build the bridge to come into standards today. Next slide, please. So looking at our options, you'll see on the left is our existing bridge, right, option 1. On the left, the existing bridge, there are no amenities for sidewalks or for bike lanes. If you're a pedestrian, you're forced to walk in the road with traffic. If you're a bicycle, you're riding in the road with traffic. So option 1 provides accommodations for both, but separated accommodations. You would have separated bicycle facility and separated pedestrian walkway on both sides of the bridges. And this is kind of standard, typical construction. The bike lane has the benefit of increasing the clear zone. Okay, so it provides a little more comfort if you're a pedestrian on the sidewalk. It provides a 4 to 5 foot wide buffer between where the vehicles drive and where the pedestrians are walking. And it also accommodates, should be a dedicated lane for that bicycle in each direction, north and south. Option 2, again, you see our existing bridge on the left. Option for 2 on the right. Option for 2 on the right shows a shared use path. The west side, sidewalk on the east side. The benefits of this is you have an actual dedicated shared use facility for somebody who might not be an expert rider and doesn't feel comfortable riding adjacent to traffic. The benefits of a shared use trail is that you can provide an extra wide sidewalk, typically a minimum of 8 foot wide, and that allows for joint use by bicyclists and pedestrians. The reason that shared use is, it is considered a pro is that you're providing both non-expert and expert riders space. Bicyclists, if they were an expert rider, or if you have novice riders, they would use the shared use facility and have a level of comfort in their own facility. And then the option of having a sidewalk on the opposite side, if you're a pedestrian and you don't want to be sharing the space with a bicycle, you can choose to be on the opposite side. Next slide, please. Option 3 provides shared use on both sides. And so this would be 8 foot wide on both sides of the bridge. I do want to point out that there is a curb line, what protects both the pedestrians and the bicyclists, and also protects the structure of the bridge, is that curb line. So if you're a vehicle, an errant vehicle, and you hit your curb line, that deflects your tires. And so that keeps you from continuing and hitting the bridge. But what happened to us in 2020 when our office provided hit the guardrails, there was nothing to keep him from hitting. Here, in this option, we have that extruded curve that serves as a deflection for tires so that it doesn't hit the structure of the bridge. Or sidewalk would function at the same capacity. Sidewalk also provides enough vertical elevation to deflect the tire from hitting the structure of the bridge. Next slide. And so here is the QR code that we're providing for folks to submit their options, their choice. And as I mentioned, tonight we're not asking for a final decision on these, but we are providing the QR code. And what we want folks to do is we're going to open up our survey for a period of time and collect the input. We're going to try to make as democratic a decision as possible. Because either of these options meets the need of the future for the bridge and to accommodate users. So what we're looking at is meeting needs for vehicles, for emergency vehicles, for pedestrians, for bicycles. The intent here is that we're accommodating the needs of the future. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our design engineers, and I know you have a bunch of questions for them. So what I would ask you to do is, if you have a question, because there are folks on Zoom tonight, and the only way that they're going to hear you is if you come up to the mic. So one by one, if you would come up to the mic, ask your question, and then I have the design engineers here that are available to answer your questions. I'm going to turn this mic around, and if you'll queue up and if you have a question, feel free to come up to the mic.
I hate to always be the first one, but my name is Mark. I live on one of these streets. My question is to design is, first of all, who came up with this design? We cannot have sidewalks or bike lanes on any, we have sidewalk on one side, but we don't have bike lanes down 15th Avenue or 10th Street or any other street inside our residential neighborhoods. So why are we an additional bike lane here? I understand having a sidewalk, it makes a lot of sense, and a curb makes a lot of sense. But the extra width of having a bike lane is not reasonable to me, and I don't understand why we're going to have it in this residential neighborhood when we're only going to have it for this bridge. We're not going to have it unless we're doing this through the entire city. Or is this road future proposal to be beach access from 10th Street to the beach? We're going to use 10th Street and say this way to the beach? Because I don't want to see that sign. This is not a traffic street. This is a local neighborhood street. Now, if it has to be raised and the bridge is bad, it has to be raised. but we're looking for the least offensive structure in our community. All of these are very offensive to me. I don't know about the rest of my community, but to me, I don't need a sidewalk on both sides of the street. I don't have a sidewalk on both sides of the street now. I don't even have a sidewalk on my street at all. So, and most of my neighborhood doesn't have a sidewalk. So why would we be doing this to such an extent when we're not going to do the rest of our community? And Deerfield isn't this. I moved to Deerfield because it's a sleepy little town, not because it's hodgepodge, the nicest thing in the world. It's a beautiful city to live in. I love where I live. So those are my questions. And how do we come up with this type of design that, you know, where's the consideration to one sidewalk? We could have done with a park bridge, a park walkway with a wood bridge on the other side outside of this bridge. It doesn't even have to be part of the bridge. We can do a wood walkway on the other side, which we can walk across. And I walk a dog frequently, so I walk across this bridge every day.
All right, let's get some response. Thank you very much for your input. Oh, he's going to answer. I'm going to answer. Oh, okay. I may not have too much answers, but I will. So get the online, sure. So the sidewalk is proposed. I understand the sidewalk is on the west side. On the east side, there is no sidewalk.
Not on the east.
Right.
Well,
No,
every single one.
Everyone has a
Every single
sidewalk.
one has a walkway and sidewalk.
what you say. I'm saying existing currently on the west side there's a sidewalk.
Right. Is it?
And then before the bridge, you don't have
It ends before the bridge because the bridge cannot accommodate a sidewalk.
I'm saying if we could have a wood.
Okay. He's going to answer, but let's not go back and forth. Go ahead. So again, so the proposal is if somebody's walking on the sidewalk on the south side or on the north side, they have to have a way to come across the bridge. So the proposal is put the sidewalk on the bridge. So that's one point. So that's why we propose the sidewalk on the west side. In addition, as Priscilla said, we need also the width of the bridge to make it not functionally obsolete. There's a requirement for a width of a bridge for the actual clear zone for traffic to move.
What's the minimum? What's the minimum? It gives context. You need to answer that.
Without the sidewalk, I think if you put two sidewalks on the bridge, right now we're at a minimum of 44 feet.
No, but what's the minimum requirement by the DOT for it? First of all, what kind of first?
You gotta come on up here, and I know you're hobbling.
Yeah. These questions, you have to answer a lot of questions if you take care of who sets the standards, what type of
People online can't hear you from there.
I can come up.
Okay.
He's asking.
Someone ask more questions, just so we can clear it up a little. That's frustrating. I'll speak. So, hey, my name's Joel Barnes, I'm a resident of Deerfield Beach for 21 years. I raised 3 kids since. I've never had an issue with this bridge. I'll speak more to them, but what I wanted to ask was, first of all, who sets the standard for the bridge? What type of bridge is it? Because obviously we don't have to meet the standard of the Hillsborough Bridge, right? The WIN. So I guess what's the name of the classification of our bridge? What's the minimum requirement? Not considering sidewalks or anything. What's the minimum DOT WIN requirement?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
The minimum requirements, and I would have to go back to the standards, but for a 2-lane bridge, I think, and I would have to go to the standards, I don't have standards yet, but I think it's 34 feet without any sidewalks.
And that's class bridges.
Sorry.
I think it's rural.
Okay. Low volume.
No problem with
Off system.
at 25 minutes.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so again, the minimum requirements without any sidewalks for that bridge with 2 lanes, 10 foot wide, things 34 feet to meet the minimum requirements. However, since you do have a sidewalk on the west side, it's only one, there's none on the east side, to accommodate the traffic, you cannot just shut the sidewalk and have people walk on the road. So accommodating the actual sidewalk and pedestrian traffic
on the west side is at the minimum, should be. So that's what make the bridge, rated in 24 feet. For the side.
No, it's 24 right now, right?
That's 24 now, but for the minimum, we don't decide that, it's 24.
Sure. So, I live east of 50 on 7th Street, which is right at the end. Isn't that what we're doing with 13th? And I don't travel it enough times, so I could be wrong, but don't we have a sidewalk that terminates before the bridge, the feet on the bridge?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
With that new bridge?
No, it's not a new bridge.
Maybe 13th Avenue was a bridge repair. Okay, it was not a bridge replacement. We're talking about today, what we're gonna do is build you a brand new bridge. What we did on 13th Avenue was we replaced the bridge deck. That was it, okay? So that bridge, even though we were able to improve it significantly to where it can take heavy loads now, okay, it still is functionally obsolete. It is not to standards, okay? So we have to bring anything that we do today has to be brought up to a minimum standards. And the other thing is it is city policy to install sidewalks. Okay? It is our city policy by code to install sidewalks. The goal for the future is that people have sidewalks. Okay, we want to accommodate pedestrian traffic. We want to reduce our footprint. We want to be a sustainable community. We want to encourage people to walk it. We don't want to encourage people to have to take a vehicle everywhere they want to go. So our goal in infrastructure construction is to build more sidewalks. Okay, and we want to be able to accommodate bicycle as well. Okay, so all of our future designs need to accommodate this. We need to meet the minimum standards for those facilities. If we're building a shared use facility, the minimum per ASHA, okay, which is the guiding standard for the United States, okay, nationwide, the minimum standard is 8 foot. The preferred is 10 to 12 foot, okay. What we're building on our new roadways that we're building in other parts of the city are 10 to 12 foot wide shared use facilities. What we're proposing here is a minimum width because of the low volumes of your residential community. 8 foot is the minimum for a shared use facility. That's what's being proposed. Clear zone, without going anywhere, clear zone is a requirement. We have to meet clear zone for recovery from vehicles. We don't want vehicles hitting our guardrails. We need to have a sidewalk to deflect those vehicles from hitting, so that we don't.
How the hell they give me time? They won't give me time. I raised my hand.
Oh, he's on screen.
Okay, so just keep your hand raised and we'll come to you. Right. Okay, so I think we can move on to the next question.
Well, wait,
I don't know.
It opens up questions.
Michael says so. Extras.
I have a bunch more questions now based on the repair of 13th Avenue. So, was 13th Avenue Bridge functionally obsolete before it was repaired? So then, how were we able to repair it? Because
It's a repair.
and I might be misunderstanding this, but you're making it sound like we have to build a new bridge. No. So why didn't we build a new bridge on 13th Avenue?
13th Avenue did not have funding for a new bridge. We were working within what was available to us. We received $765,000 from these taxes. This is the penny tax that's being collected by Broward County taxpayers, and that was provided to the city for maintenance. Now, what they fund for maintenance activities, we could not do a bridge replacement under maintenance activities. So we had to work within the confines, one, what they defined as maintenance, and two, what they provided as budget. Okay, so that was the constraints on that project. We redid the bridge deck, we did the guardrails on that project. That was it. We didn't look at widening it, we didn't look at, providing sidewalks, any of those amendments, because all we were looking to do was make it safe, because it was not safe any longer.
And how long is that extended life of that bridge? Still has to be replaced.
Yeah, it's functionally obsolete to this day. It's going to remain functionally obsolete until it's replaced. However, it will last years, okay, because it has been repaired and can now take heavy loads, but it is functionally obsolete. If you're a dog walker, if you're taking your child in a stroller, you don't want to be on that bridge. I know, I'm a mom of three, okay? I would not want
So, just so we're clear, it doesn't preclude us. We're not required to build a new bridge. No. That's my take on it. And I will say this. I agree there needs to be a new bridge. I mean, obviously, it's efficient. I will say also, I'm an avid cyclist for over 30 years. You know, there's guys on A1A going crazy fast on bikes, and I raised all my kids to be cyclists. And we've driven that bridge probably tens of thousands of times over 23 years, the 15th Ave Bridge. No problem. I've never had a problem. I've never had a scenario where I have two cars that keep walking all at the same time. People, they're residents, so they move out of the way, they slow down, they know what's coming fast. But also, really not an issue. And the thing is, I like the renderings. You know, they look beautiful. I was talking to my neighbor, walking in the neighborhood, Gary. I said, "Hey, what do you think?" And my first impression was, that's inviting people to use that bridge that aren't from the neighborhood. That's like, I want to use that bridge to get to the beach. You don't want that. The residents don't want that. I think really mentioned is that wrecked 3 times on the Hillsborough Bridge. We don't even have stripes like that on the Hillsborough Bridge. Cyclists do. We don't have those stripes on the bridge. But I'm just, it's kind of.
Why you get off and walk?
So, all I would say is I think there would be a lot more openness to this idea if we would have proposed option number 4, which is we don't need to build a new bridge. We could do what we did on 13th Avenue. That would make, I think, a lot of us at ease. This is, I think, a little bit too much. I've never needed it. Probably the highest use. I don't speak for all residents, but most of us, none of us that live in the cove drive to the beach.
Right.
We either take our golf carts or we take our bikes. It'd be crazy to take our cars. Just look right there. Skateboards, electric. My kids are always over there. Electric skateboards. So
That's another resident. We have somebody on, I know, we're here there.
I'm probably most affected by what we're talking about tonight. My home's 15th Avenue, and it faces 15th Avenue. I'm in the southeast corner of the bridge. Okay. Now, I want to say I've lived in that home well over 40 years now. And just like Joel said, I spend a lot of time out front working in my yard and stuff. In fact, neighbors, I pretty well know everyone who rides by, walks by with their dogs, and saying hi to everyone. I have never, ever seen a person going across that bridge in an unsafe manner where they felt like a resident of the cove was going to run them over. And I'll guarantee you that from the time I bought that house over 40 years ago, I've never heard one person getting hit while walking or on a bicycle in the cove. Now, we're talking well over 40 some odd years. We don't even see police on 15th Avenue. I mean, I bet you haven't issued a ticket on 15th Avenue in a number of years.
Yeah.
I doubt you've even issued a ticket in the last 10 years because there's no police presence. Because everyone who's driving 15th Avenue right now is a resident of the cove. And talking about when the bridge has been hit one time. Okay, it got hit in 2019. And the family that lived across from Joel and Shannon on 7th Street there, their son, who was like 22 years old, had a Mustang. I was out mowing my yard. He stops at the stop sign, makes a right-hand turn to go north, 15th Avenue. Just as he starts getting on the bridge, he has a front right-hand blowout tire on his passenger side. Front tire blew out. We have a curve on that bridge, and it's been there since the bridge was built at 55. But the problem was, when that tire blew out, his rear went into the asphalt, and he swung around, and his front bumper hit the concrete wall and cracked the wall. As a result, we shut the bridge down for about, 3 months, 6 months to repair that wall, okay? That's the only time that bridge has ever been hit. Now, I will say, in the last 2 years, because we've taken the guardrails and have them right at the edge of the roadway, right where the asphalt is a guardrail. And we put the I-95 bumpers at the end of each guardrail. You don't see those bumpers in any other city that you drive through. The only time you ever see those bumpers is when you're getting on 995. Sometimes an off-ramp or an on-ramp on I-95 will have those big square bumpers. And the problem is, they're right at the asphalt. So anyone who blinks, and I watched 2 people hit those bumpers. I was coming back from the gym one day, and a young lady was driving a big Escalade. She went over the speed bump, okay? And I don't know whether she was texting or what, but she hit that speed bump probably at 25 miles an hour. She wasn't speeding. It threw her car a little bit to the right, and she didn't recover enough time, and her front right bumper just happened to catch that big bumper and tore the thing up. Tore the car up, brand new black Escalade. And the other person who I saw, and mine has been hit 3 or 4 times, and it hasn't been repaired yet. It's hanging out in the street, in fact. It's about 3 or 4 inches in the street, so if you don't get out of the way, you're going to hit it, because it's in the right of way. A guy was going across the bridge in a Toyota pickup truck, and because it's hanging out in the street, he was driving on the asphalt, but he caught his right rear well, tore the rear well out of the Toyota pickup truck, and tore the axle out of the truck. It took 3 pickup trucks to get that truck to move. And the only reason why he had the accident was because that bumper is sticking in the road. And we can go over there right now, and it's still sticking in the road, and the cops came when that happened, because he called the police. Now, we're talking about flood zones. I'm a believer in flood zones, okay? Right now, the deck of that bridge is not in a flood zone. I went to the environmental people in Deerfield Beach, and they gave me the map, the flood map, and the deck of the bridge is not in a flood zone, okay? In fact, the street leading up to the deck of the bridge is not in a flood zone. The flood zone starts where my circular driveway meets 15th Avenue. Going south, that's where the flood zone starts. If I'm coming out of my driveway, I'm all of a sudden in a flood zone. If I make a right and go south, north, I'm not in a flood zone. The underneath structure is in a flood zone. So I can understand if we redo the bridge, we got to raise the bridge. That makes a lot of sense. But ever since that bridge got hit and we shut down traffic, we're now down to just local traffic in the cove. Pretty well, it's all residential traffic. Every once in a while, you get someone cutting through there. And if it wasn't for the pool maintenance guys and the lawn service guys, which I can't afford to have all that going on, but if it wasn't for those guys, 15th Avenue would be a ghost town from 9:30 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it's hardly any traffic. I don't know when the last traffic study was done. In planning this bridge, did anyone put a traffic study out? Did he put the little black things out on the road?
Yes. We did have a traffic study performed back in 2021, 1,600 vehicles per day.
Okay. And that's changed now completely.
1,600 vehicles is nothing. It's residential traffic.
So, and now, when I looked at the health of all the bridges in the state of Florida, and God, there's so many of them. The health of the 15th Avenue Bridge excuse me, I gotta put my glasses on. The health of the 15th Avenue Bridge in April of 20 was 52.29. The health has to do with the structure and all that. The health of the 15th Avenue Bridge in October of 23 went up to 59.95. So the health of the bridge has improved in the last 4 years. Now, I'm assuming that's attributed to putting those, metal, steel girders in.
You can speak to the engineer.
Yeah. Anyhow, the health of the bridge has gone up compared to the way it was in 2020. Okay. I don't really know whether everyone feels like we shouldn't replace the bridge, but I'm going to tell you, Mark, who lives across the water from me, he went down through Lighthouse Point the first of the week, and he came upon the Ave Bridge. And I'm going to tell you, that bridge, which was built in the last 3 years, aesthetically, for a little beachside community, is perfect. I think you guys, did you all go there? What did you think about it? I mean, aesthetically, it's a really nice bridge. It fits into the beachside community vibe. It's whatever the minimum width of the lanes are. I know, reading on about residential neighborhoods and width lanes, 10 feet's the minimum. They recommend just 10 feet. They say on the state of Florida, it says when you're building roads in residential areas, 10 feet is your minimum, and try to keep it to the very, very bare minimum. And they said there's no need for bicycle paths in residential communities because it's just community people riding their bikes and so on and so forth. So now what we're proposing is having bike lanes on both sides of a bridge that go absolutely nowhere, okay? And once you come off, and we're only talking 26 feet. That's from me to about the 6th row here. I could walk 26 feet right now, and I'm a slow walker, probably in 5 seconds. And you can ride your bike across it in probably 2 or 3 seconds. So we're talking 26 feet of bridge up. From wall to wall, we're probably only talking maybe 18 feet. So anyone going under that bridge, you got about 18 feet of width between your walls. On the bridge top, it's 26 feet. My concern is we're talking about all this massive structure for one reason, because they're looking to try to increase the flow of traffic on 15th Avenue.
Yep.
And the reason why I'm saying that is because in 2023, Deerfield Beach did a 2023 legislative agenda. Okay, it's a 2-page document. If anyone wants a copy, stop by my house. I'm always out front. I'll be more than happy to make a copy. Okay, here it says, the bridge no longer accommodates the demands of today's roadway travel demands. Okay. And then it goes on to say, moreover, the height of the bridge sits too low for the floodplain, making it especially vulnerable to flooding during tropical storms and other adverse climate conditions. Well, again, the deck of the bridge was not in a flood zone. The deck of the bridge has never flooded.
Right. Let me clarify, please.
I understand the underneath structure, yeah.
We're talking about a canal. It's the canal that carries the water. Okay? So the idea is you don't want to have too low a deck because what you create is a pinch point. The water has to flow through the canal. The water raises in the canal. You cannot create a pinch point. But again, as I indicated, there are jurisdictional agencies outside of the city, outside of FDOT, that regulate the height of the minimum forward of that bridge. Okay, that is outside of our purview. As they dictate what the minimum height of that bottom forward is for the bridge. The bridge has to sit above that height because now is the floodway. Okay, not once we're in the 100-year flood, the water's already in the bathtub in the city of Deerfield Beach. Okay, not at that point. We're talking about the waterways, the canals that are empty into the larger waterways, into the intercoastal. Okay.
13 Avenue.
So now when you go to the second page of the legislative agenda on 2023.
It did not replace 13th Avenue. We just did a repair.
But it didn't, you elevated it?
No.
Okay. Okay. So on the second page of this 2023 legislative agenda, it says, and I'm just taking couple sentences out of this paragraph. It says, it is the main road that runs through the city code neighborhood, referring to 15th Avenue. Well, I think any one of us who lives in the cove knows 12th Avenue is the main road. But it goes on to say, it's the main, it's the main road that runs through the city's code neighborhood and feeds directly into one of the city's main artery roads. It says Hillsborough Road, that's a spelling, it should be Hillsborough Boulevard, which in turn leads to major areas such as highways, I-95, other adjoining cities, Boca Raton, Coconut Creek, Delray Beach, to name a few. So they're basically saying 15th Avenue is what we use to go to 95, to go to Federal Highway, to go to all the cities that surround us. When we know for a fact, when you hit 15th Avenue and Hillsborough Boulevard, you go one way, you go to the beach. Unless you're willing to make a traffic violation, you're going to the beach. Okay? So to say that this is the main road when we all know 12th Avenue, for every car on 15th Avenue, I'll bet you there's at least 30 or 40 cars going down 12th Avenue. And 12th Avenue leads right into Lighthouse Point, which is Lighthouse Drive, which goes all the way almost from 10th Street to Copance Road. So it's a long, long road, and that's considered as the main road through Lighthouse Point. Now, this bridge they just built at Ibis, and I would love for you all just to drive down Lighthouse Point Drive and go to that Ibis Bridge. The way to get there would be go down Federal to Sample, make a left, and then jump on Lighthouse Point Drive. And when you get to the Ibis Bridge, it's a 2-lane bridge with the little buffer things and everything. And then the walkway, it's a shared walkway for bicycles and walkers. Is you got the wall and then you've got the walkway. So even if you're a walker or bicycle walking across, you don't have to worry about a car having a blowout and hitting you on the sidewalk while you're walking across the bridge because you got the wall separating you. Plus, the plans are already drawn up. Yeah. I mean, there's plans, it was just built. The state of Florida is the one who contracted with the builder. It says right here, they contracted with the builder. It's a done deal.
How do you spell IBIS?
IBIS, I-B-I-S.
Yes, why not? Kingfisher.
That's
Kingfisher.
Yes.
They're both the same
They're
bridge.
both the same.
State bridge, okay.
I mean,
But the bottom line is, aesthetically, it makes the community feel and look like it's a little beachside community. And you're accomplishing what you really want to set out. For anybody who's not, I don't know how anybody riding a bike would not be comfortable riding across in an auto lane on our bridge, because we've been doing it since 1955, and not one person's ever been hit, whether walking or riding a bike. And Joel rides every morning until he had his knee surgery here. You know, and there's certain people that ride our street all the time. I'm a big bike rider. You ride along, it's neighborhood traffic. People get out of your way. When I'm out mowing my yard and heads go over the street, I never worry about someone hitting me because everyone goes into the other lane. Because they're never really meeting anybody. Chances of meeting two cars on this bridge at the same time is like it snowed in 1977 here.
All right. Let's see if we can get someone else.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
Jimmy Gurney, 1442 Southeast 6. Question. Did you say that the elevation, the water level on one side of the bridge is higher than the other? What were you saying about the flow of water?
that we cannot create a bottleneck. We cannot create a constraint.
Well, what's happening now? Is there a problem now?
So yes, today.
Tell me what the problem is.
So today, that bottom elevation of Ford, and I believe, is it an I-beam today or is it a double T?
It's a double T.
It's a double T. So today, that bottom Ford elevation is below base flood elevation. On new bridges, we have to be above base flood elevation.
Okay, so there's no change in where level is.
No, it has nothing to do with water.
I misunderstood what you said. Thank you.
Alright, come on, I'm gonna do some.
If I may,
Yeah, go ahead, let's do it. We're gonna do Zoom real quick.
we have 15th Avenue Bridge raised hand if you'll unmute.
Oh, hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Eric. I just had a couple of questions based on what I saw. One, so I'm just going to keep them really simple. Well, one is the decision making to replace that bridge going to take place. When will that meeting be in front of the city?
So the purpose tonight is to discuss the typical section for the replacement of the bridge. So what we are requesting is feedback on these options. And what we're going to do is take the feedback, and that'll be the direction for the basis of design report to complete the design.
Right, but was there? I'm sorry to interrupt. Was there a meeting that actually took place authorizing this to actually be replaced already, or not?
To date, what we've done is we've done multiple workshops to determine whether or not this bridge would be replaced, and those were done in prior workshops. We've asked multiple questions in the past as to whether or not the community desired the bridge to be replaced and whether it was a critical bridge, and it was determined that the bridge was a critical bridge and that we needed to replace it.
Okay, so there's already been a decision that's been made at the city level to replace the bridge, is what you're saying?
So the bridge, because of right now its efficiency 15.6, I believe it is, we can go back to the previous slide, but right now, because of the ratings of this bridge and the health index of this bridge, the option available to us is replacement. We really cannot keep this bridge. It's functionally obsolete, it's structurally deficient.
Okay, and so then the city has no discretion whatsoever as to whether or not to proceed with it?
Well, replacement is needed if it has exceeded its useful life.
This is what he asked.
I'm asking if there's any discretion.
Does the bridge have to be replaced?
That's the question. You didn't have the money.
So we didn't have the money to replace the bridge before. We do now. And I think it's in the best interest of everybody to replace the bridge. But how that bridge looks is why we're here. And what I'm hearing is that these options are meant to try to bring as much multimodal transportation across as possible. It would not vehicle traffic. I've heard comments about, well, we're trying to do this to the bridge so that more vehicles can come through. We're not changing the footprint of vehicular traffic of the bridge. What I am hearing is that, at least from this crowd, and I think it is going to be important to put the survey out and see what it looks like. I'm hearing from this crowd is that you'd like to also see an option that includes just one sidewalk or alternative mode of transportation, we'll call it, shared use path, whatever that may be, on one side. And I think that third side would be on the west side, right? Okay. So I'm with you, and I hear you, okay? I know the mayor's on, and I'm not sure if he wanted me to address the appropriation request or if he wanted to, but if you can unmute him, we can at least get his. You have him unmuted. Do you want me to address that, Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, David. I'll let you address that. I'll a couple comments afterwards.
Thank you. So, you're reading an appropriation request. When we submit an appropriation request to the state, we are trying our best to get money. Okay? So, things are crafted in a certain way to try to get those funds. So, when we talk about that road having connectivities to major arterial roads or the highway and things like that, just going to tell you we're honestly trying to get money from the state. Okay. All right. It's not going to come out of your tax dollars. It's going to come out of the state appropriation. So that's the attempt to put language into an appropriation. Okay. So when you read that and you're looking at that and you're saying, look what they're trying to do. Okay, we're trying to get some dollars to do these projects. That's really the basis of that. Okay.
So what works better? To make sure what you're saying is going to happen then?
Well, we didn't get the appropriation. So we didn't get the appropriation, unfortunately. So that's why we've actually, kind of slowed down the process a little bit. And we're just looking right now at the design dollars, which the city did fund design dollars. And now it's going to take a couple of years to get through that, or 18 months or so to get the design. And, as you heard, we're looking to program, a construction in 18 months. I'm going to go back to the gentleman online's question who asked, do we have to do this? And you guys asked that question. Do we have to? We could do what we did to 13th Avenue. Myself, I don't think that's in the best interest of the community. I think that at the end of the day, what we should do. So I don't live in the community. But we heard comments about how nice the projects that, Lighthouse Point has done recently and things like that. And what we're really trying to do is upgrade that bridge for the community. I think at the end of the day, we have to recognize that there is an existing footprint. And what I think we're adamantly hearing from this group is that to the extent that we can provide a safe bridge, but minimize as much of the width footprint as possible, I think that's what I'm hearing.
It's designed to 13th Street Bridge, and then it's only.
I don't know who designed it because it's pretty old, right? So
I don't know, but forget it. I mean,
it's a pretty old bridge. Those are the types of bridges that were designed in that time. It's probably this one's
you rebuilt it. You repaired it. Yeah. You can't even see over it now. I mean, it's.
So we can talk about 13th.
My question, but I'm getting to the point. Who's going to design the new one?
So we have still a lot of people online, right? And you guys get the advantage of, and please don't take this for manufacture. You guys get the benefit of shouting out to me. But we guys still have people on Zoom that I want to allow to speak, and I know that the mayor wanted to make a few comments as well.
Thank you, Dave. Sorry, guys, I cannot be there in person here tonight. Just to address the point and to Dave's point, and that's why I let him speak on it, because I wanted to make sure that he was in this thinking the same thing I was. When we went to the state appropriation, like nothing that was stated in there is inaccurate. Certainly, that's a way you could use that, but to access 95 and every other access points and major thoroughfares. But the idea to try to drive more traffic to this bridge is absolutely not the plan. That doesn't work for anybody on any level. So that certainly is not what we're looking to do. But you put in as many facts as you can, and you make the best case scenario, and you present your case to get the state appropriations, which in the end is, of course, all of our taxpayer dollars, but it's a smaller portion of our taxpayer dollars if the state's paying for it than it is if we're footing the bill from the city of Deerfield Beach. So it's less out of your pocket, and we've got people in the panhandle helping us pay for this bridge type project. So I don't want anybody running away saying, oh, we're not using your tax dollars. Of course we are, but it's a much smaller percentage when you get state appropriations. The whole point of this is to get input from everybody to determine what we want. And I think what the general consensus seems to be, do have as little impact as possible when doing this. What we don't want, and while 40 years of being lucky of never having an incident, what we don't want is somewhere down the road, because we didn't put in an ability to cross, where someone doesn't have to go out into the street. And we didn't do that if something does happen. We don't want to ever be in that scenario. And while a 40-year track record's pretty good, we certainly don't want to make sure that we've done everything we can to keep people safe but we want to do it with the least amount of impact on the residents that go through that bridge, which are the majority of them are all of you who live over there. So I think I understand everybody's passionate about this, but this is about giving us some idea of what direction you want us to go in, and I appreciate you guys coming out and partaking in this.
Anyone opposed just removing it?
No. It's part of the whole ambience. Ridiculous.
Was there anybody else online that wanted to speak? No, I know that this gentleman, I'm sorry, was that a yes or no?
Yeah.
No? No, that's okay. And I know that this gentleman wanted to speak as well.
Yeah, you kind of answered. My name is Chris. I live on the corner of Southeast 15th Ave and 8th Court, or 15th Ave and Southeast 8th Court. And everybody kind of answered. I mean, the option 4 that everybody's talking about seems to be what we all want to go with. We don't see the option 4 up here because we do want a minimal impact. I moved here 6 years ago. I love this neighborhood. I bought on 15th Avenue because it was quaint, it was quiet, it was peaceful. If I wanted more traffic, I would have lived on Federal Highway or even 12th Avenue or some other place, but I wanted a place where I could access the beach and do it in a way that was safe. I walk my dog every single day. People probably see it. I know my dog Bodie. We all know each other. And we know each other because we're able to walk down 15th Avenue without any issues at all, whether it's biking, skateboarding, rollerblading, golf carts, walking, and nobody has any issues. And I think the fear that everybody has here is twofold. Again, I don't want to speak for everybody here, but for me, the fear is twofold. One is you make a bigger bridge, you are going to attract more traffic, whether you like it or not. You may not want to do that by design, but it's going to happen. And the mayor talked about 40 years of safety. Right now, it's safe. You all walk across it. I do it all the time. Somebody mentioned that people slow down. They move to the other lane. This is an unusual thing to happen in the United States of America, let alone Florida, that people move to the other lane when they see you walking your dog. And I mean, of course you look over your shoulder, but I've never had to worry at all. And I want to keep it that way. The second thing is, and please don't take this personally, anybody in this room who's part of the government here, but there's a fear that if we give an inch, you take a mile. And so this is step 1. And as somebody mentioned, step 2 will be all of a sudden there's going to be signs up at Southeast 10th saying, hey, this way to the beach. And it's going to drive you all the way down 15th Avenue because instead of, people coming north on the south side, you go to Southeast 10th and the north of the Hillsbury Gate. The bottom line is I think those are the fears that we have. And because of that, we're all very, very concerned. And that's why most of us showed up to say, hey, we love our little neighborhood the way it is. We understand that we need to make improvements. But in my opinion, it wouldn't be progress to do the bridge the way we're talking about. It would actually be a detriment. So that's my judgment.
So, just however long we've been looking at this meeting, what we have, right? Okay, so just remember that about 70 minutes into the meeting that I said the only person who's going to divert traffic into your neighborhood of the beach is Google Maps. We are not going to, and do not intend in any way, to put up signs that say this way to the beach or the cove. That is not an efficient. That would be the most inefficient thing to do. That'd be a huge,
David, if I may, I will say this. Why in the world were any of us sitting on the dais want to make our jobs harder by making your life miserable to do that? There's no way we would ever do that. We don't want that. We like it being our little secret for the people who live in that neighborhood to use, and we like to keep it that way.
Okay. So, I understand. I understand. You heard the mayor. You heard me. You see Commissioner Budak nodding on that. Nobody's going to put up any signage now or in the future to divert traffic through your neighborhood to get to the beach from Federal Highway or wherever. That's not what we're going to do. Just a couple of words. Good evening, everyone. My name is Louis Boterri. I am actually a local civil trial attorney, and I don't specialize in construction, but I thought Gary did my job for me. Brought exhibits, did his research, but there's a really human, compelling part of this, and it's us. It's the community. Gary and his fans have been there for years, decades. I have a 5-year-old and 2-year-old that enjoy playing out
in our yard. We have that little swing. We're also on 15th Avenue. And I think hopefully if we leave this meeting, the city knowing how much we care and having an option 4, because I guess I would tell the residents, hold off on voting, because if they vote tonight and the QR code is not updated to option 4, then it's kind of skewed. So give us option 4. Let's talk to the residents, the folks that weren't able to be here today, and have all the options available for us, not just option 1, 2, and 3. And I think everyone collectively is going to make the right decision. I hope the city, I implore the city to listen. We are the heartbeat of this town, and it's great to see everyone. And hopefully we'll leave here with a line and be working.
We'll go back and forth with Mr. Slattery. We got one person online, and so we'll take him and then we'll take you.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right. So one thing I did want to say is my name is Tim Volek. I live on 4th Court. Been here for about 12 years now, or so, 11 years. And one thing I do want to say is that I do think that not having a sidewalk connected over that bridge is not something that I think is a great thing right now. Every time we walk down there, it always feels, it does not feel safe, I don't think, when you have to cross from those little stub sidewalks that are there onto the bridge. You always have to go look if there's a car coming. I think having something with a proper sidewalk that connects both sides of the bridge would be a great asset, and it would make me feel better. When we walk through the neighborhood at night, or even during the day, it's just something that's needed, and it should have been done a long time ago.
The other thing, like, this is his wife Stephanie, also 4th Court. So would option 4 be a sidewalk that just connects on the west side of the bridge?
No, fixing the bridge, I think, was option 4.
Oh, I thought option 4. I thought we were replacing the bridge because and I just want to say this. I really appreciate you guys going to bat for us, for our city, and for the state funding to do something like this. It's really appreciated. But so would option 4 be just a single sidewalk on the west side? Is that what we were discussing? Because I kind of missed that. Online, it's a little hard to follow along.
Sure. So, and that was Stephanie, correct?
Yes, Steph and Tim.
So you guys can hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
So yes, I think what I'm hearing is that we'd like to see an option that only shows some kind of sidewalk or shared use on the left. Yes, I'm looking at the bridge, and so my left is west. Yes. On the west side, and that it meet the minimum requirements for that type of use, and that would be it.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, and definitely connect, because I knew on both sides of the bridge, right, there's those like kind of sidewalks to nowhere that we have. I mean, that'd be great if those actually were, usable.
On north and south side, you're saying, of the bridge.
Yeah.
On the west side.
And
that's all. We don't have.
Okay, so I'll take it from here for a minute. So, my name's Sean Slattery. I live at 5th Place and 15th Avenue, right at the roundabout there. So, I have a couple questions and a couple comments. So, one question is there any plan to widen 15th Avenue and add bike lanes or anything all the way through 15th from 10th to Hillsborough?
It's a lot.
Alright, so we're talking about adding bike lanes just for like a 1 block area?
Yeah, so a little clarity on what those bike lanes are. So we have to have a minimum bridge deck width. So it's how do you allocate that additional space on the bridge? Do you allocate it for pedestrian usage? Do you allocate it for bicycles? We need a clear zone regardless of that, okay? So the width requirement is a requirement for clear zone, okay? So regardless, we have to allocate that space for some usage, okay? It could be just a breakdown shoulder, but that's ill-advised because you have pedestrians and you have bicycles. So why not provide an amenity for them since you have to have the width regardless? So the question is, how best to use that width? Do we call it a shared use path and accommodate bikes and peds with a curb line? Do we call it a a sidewalk and provide a raised platform that people walk across the side of. You know, those are the options that we're talking about. But regardless, the width of the bridge has to be what the width is based on standards, okay? And we have to have the clearance on each side to where the actual structure of the railing is. Okay, so those are what we're working with. And what we're doing is just allocation of space. How do we best allocate that space?
What's the width have to be?
34, what's the actual minimum width?
Again, no, that's it. Well, like I try to stand with, I think it's 34.6. That's the minimum width required for a 2-lane.
So we need to confirm, did you work on plan 4 with 34.6?
Huh?
You work on plan 4 with 34.6 instead of 44.7? No.
Yeah.
So again, 34.6 is the bridge deck. Okay, so you're talking 17-foot wide lanes. Okay, you don't want 17-foot wide lanes. You want 10-foot wide lanes, and you want that 6 additional feet used for another alternative purpose. Right? Okay. That's what we're talking about. And we always want to have a buffer space. You don't want to have, you know, you don't typically have 10 foot in the sidewalk right there. That would be really uncomfortable. You'd have a buffer, typically 2 to 3 feet. Okay, so that's what we usually refer to as the gutter. It's continuous gutter line. You have to prove that it's 2 foot wide. In this instance, you have about 2 foot between that edge stripe and the sidewalk itself. Okay, so all the bridge deck width is going to be what the bridge deck width has to be for minimum standards. You have to have clear zone. You have to meet clear zone. How do we reallocate that space? What's the best use of that space? That's the question.
So my follow-up questions with that is when option 4 is drawn up, is it going to include like what that feedback is going to be for those bike lanes to get back into the right way of traffic, right? Because there are no bike lanes along 15. It's right in traffic.
Everyone's talking about this Ave Bridge that unfortunately I'm not familiar.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that bridge. I'm going to pull it up and see what they've done.
You can just look at it.
So it looks like, okay, looking at it. Yeah, so they only have accommodations on one side, and they did a barrier wall. And this would require significant substructure.
Yeah.
The barrier wall is even safer for your bike. And so with that bridge, I was looking at it at the beginning of the meeting, and from what I can tell, just by BCPA, it was fairly accurate. The length of that bridge is about 39, 40 feet.
Also, it's a lot bigger than our bridge, so we don't need that bridge.
So it's 39 to 40 feet, that bridge. That's what, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this bridge. So let's just be clear that this what you're looking at is about a 40-foot bridge. And I think if we're talking about an option 4, and you're asking us, on the fly, how big would that be? I don't think, that's probably not the fairest thing to do. I think what we need to do is look at what the real requirements, right? Real requirements are for the roadway traffic and something on the left, and then you'll see that when we post that. So I'm just going to ask that you let us revamp the survey, okay? Make sure that you take the QR code through our social media and through our website and through our news blast. We'll let you guys know when that survey goes live. We'll get all your feedback, okay? We'll make sure that you see more here, you see more in the survey than what you see here, obviously, in terms of what's there, how wide it is, so on and so forth. I think we've come to the conclusion that, the height is going to be the height. There's not much we can do about that, but we will make sure that that's out there. And then, I don't know, because I haven't seen the survey. I'm sorry, John.
Just one more question. Go ahead.
And then what I want to make sure is that our survey provides for an email address. So once we're done and everybody's taken the survey, we can email you guys the results. Right? You can see the results. You can see what that looks like, and then from there, we'll get back together and we'll say this is what most people want. Right?
Can you update the QR code because it forces you to choose one of these 3 options?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a QR code guru, but I don't know if they can change it or just change what's in the background. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'll wrap it up with this, right? So we're talking about the danger of this bridge due to its narrow nature, right, to a large degree. On Fifth Place, it's narrower, that road, our street, it's only 9 houses on this street, right? Half of them have small children. It's narrower than this bridge. You close 15, this is point A to point B for people coming down 12th to 13th and then trying to get to the beach. So even our friendly neighbors drive through the street too quickly. It's got a blind curve turn on it, and it's a very narrow road. And I'm at the safer end of it by the roundabout, and people still drive across my grass and taking out my mailbox when traffic gets detoured when we close 15. So I'm begging for me and my neighbors and our children to find a safe way to do this, that we don't reroute traffic down this little blind 9-house street, please. Okay,
So that's good feedback, John. And I guess that's really talking about when this bridge closes, where that detour traffic's going to go. So there's some things that we can look at, and we can talk further with you or anyone else in the community. What we could do on the roads that are going to be taking up a lot of this detour traffic is potentially maybe we could do things like temporary speed humps or something like that to curtail the traffic while the construction's going on.
Speed up now, be there.
Well, I tried, to come up with different ideas.
Now, I've got a couple comps out there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to load this. My name is Margaret. I live on Southeast 6th Street. I've been there for the last 86 years, along with my neighbor, who's also back there. What I'd like to say is one of the critical things that I was listening to when the young lady was speaking, is when she was talking about the tonnage of the bridge. And she indicated that it was currently rated, 12 tons? And it seems like regardless of what we all say about bicycle paths and everything else we're concerned about, including myself, I think one of the things that they're probably going to make a critical decision on is that because of that tonnage, it's only rated at 12 tons, and it has to be rated for emergency vehicles, such as fire department vehicles, etc. I pointed on the fire department issue that you brought up because my son-in-law will be here in a few days. He's a battalion chief in Texas fire department. And I just want to ask a quick question because I think regardless of what we say here, you've got to replace the bridge. How you replace it is probably a more important question. So let me ask you this. What is the minimum requirement based on your stats for the tonnage for that particular bridge? No bicycle paths, no nothing, and without increasing traffic through our neighborhood. What would be the minimum requirement for that bridge?
So I spoke to the weight on the standard apparatus, which is 35 tons. So that's what we're sort of designing, is to be able to be rated for 35 ton apparatus.
Yeah. What would be the size of that bridge for the 35 tons?
It has nothing to do with size. It's
Well, I think it does. I mean,
No.
why is it
No, I'll let the
how
clerk
it's
go.
built?
If you design a bridge, there's a bridge, it doesn't matter. It could be this narrow and that wide.
Yeah, but if you make it this now, it's not going to be 35 tons.
Yes. Just the vehicles that can go over the way that we have to wait.
I understand that, but what would be the width of the bridge to get those vehicles over?
It's the minimum standard as we were saying. 34 being the minimum, but you still need to use that pathway of what you want to put apart from the 20-foot lane plus use it for urban roads.
Alright, so let me ask you a very simple question.
size bridge do you need to get a standard, Deerfield Beach fire truck over that bridge?
So I think what you're trying to do is equate the width of the bridge to the amount of weight that can go over it. And there's no, relationship.
Fire trucks
So let me try to answer your question. The width of the lanes, okay, that's the standard in terms of what you need in terms of what, okay? The weight of the bridge has a relationship to how you engineer that. Okay, all right. So the width of the bridge, it's same discussion as we've been having. The width of the bridge is in relation to what's going to flow over it, not the weight of what's going to flow over it. Does that make sense?
Why did you bring up 12 tons?
Because
it doesn't matter.
Because what we're saying today is that bridge is rated for 12 tons, which would not accommodate a fire or a fire ladder, right? So
you could just contradict that. I think what you just
no, I don't.
Wait, and with it.
No, I see.
The issue with the existing bridge is deteriorated, and that is why it can't take the weight. That's why it's rated a 4.
Yes.
It's not the width. It's the actual structural integrity of the bridge.
Yeah, I understand about the structural.
So it's deteriorated so badly when the road rating was completed. That's the maximum that will be safely allowed to go across the bridge because of the deterioration. That's why it's a 4. A brand new bridge would be a 9.
Okay. So bottom line, we're going to make the bridge so it accommodates the proper vehicles to go over that bridge. But we don't know what that width will be.
Well, the width is what we're talking about based on the options. And from everybody saying there's an option 4.
So right from that, he wants the width of the, without the option. So which is the width in order to get?
Yeah, just to get a fire truck over.
That's a wrong.
Actually, we can differentiate and think of fire truck. The 20 feet that goes over, the fire truck's long.
So you can make the bridge the same width it is today.
It can't because it doesn't. It will be functionally impossible.
And the other thing with fire trucks, usually the front drives axle is more than 26 feet before you hit the rear axle. So really only the front axle's on the bridge at one time, which is probably less than 12 ton, and then when the rear axle's on it, the front axle.
So it's distributed.
So it's not always 45 ton. Because I drive a motorhome that's 40-some feet long.
Right.
You don't always have a vehicle where both the front axle and the drive axle is on the bridge at the same time.
So it doesn't feel the way.
Because we all know the fire engine goes across every person who's throwing candy cane.
Okay.
No, it's a small fire. No, it's
So I just want to make sure that, I want to make sure that, first of all, we've heard you guys, right? And I've heard you, and I think that we know, and I appreciate all the input, as, difficult as it is sometimes to take, and, we feel like we're getting sandblasted, but it's okay, we'll do it, take it. At the end of the day, we understand that this is your neighborhood, right? So, and I want to make sure that the expectations of what we do moving forward is clear to you. So, Commissioner, if you don't mind, if I could just tell them what I think, the directions, and what we're going. Thank you.
I think we have one more question.
Oh, did we have one more question?
We have a person back on the radio.
Oh, we have a person back online? Okay, well, let's let him. Oh, no.
No, that's it.
Yep.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. So I think you're about to get into it, and thank you all for taking the time tonight. But can you just explain quickly what the process is after? So I understand there's going to be a 4th option, right? There's nothing that says that there can't be a 5th option or anything else, right? And that these drawings couldn't be revised, for instance, 1 through 3 to include speed bumps as are existing now, right?
Is that your question?
Yeah, so my question is, it's 2 questions. One, can these existing drawings include speed bumps? And then with regards to the 4th option, once all the votes are quote unquote in, what is the next step? Will at that point the commission have a meeting to decide whether or not to go forward, and will there be an opportunity to be heard at that point?
Okay, so the first question related to speed bumps, I don't know if you put speed bumps on a bridge. On the bridge.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I guess
Just wants to drawing.
Alright, you want it, okay. Not a problem.
We live on 6th Street, and just, coming out of the corner of 6th Street, if you're going to increase traffic on a bridge and you're trying to pull out of that corner, if you look at the drawings themselves, they have, extensive shrubbery. If you're going to increase the ability of speed across that bridge, it's going to be, I think, more likely that it's going to be a real problem to get out of that, get out of 6th Street either to the left or to the right.
Okay, so we want to make sure that we include in whatever this final design that speed humps are still included or installed once construction is complete.
Right.
And the second one was what I was going to talk about. So what we're going to do.
Thank you.
You are. And I don't know, we'll keep all three of these options. I'm not sure if there's an option that, doesn't make any sense anymore based off the feedback, right? So maybe we'll just come back with three. I don't want to overcomplicate it, right? So maybe it'll be three options. And we'll remove one of these that might not make sense based off feedback, and then we would include the option that we discussed tonight. Once we get the rendering of that option that we discussed tonight, we'll update the survey. We'll put it out through social media. We'll put it out through our website. If we can update this particular QR code, then we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll have to provide another one. But we'll make sure it's out there for a good length of time. We'll get your feedback. Make sure that the survey has the option to provide an email address so that when the survey is complete, we can provide you with that information as well. And I know we have that ability because we've done it on our previous survey. So then once we get those options back, we'll get back together. We'll share that information with you. We'll let you know what that survey information was, and if we have a staff recommendation at that point, we'll probably be presented to the city commission. We'll let you know because I think at that point it's about just saying, hey, look, this is the feedback of the community. 60% want this, so this is for whatever reason this is what we're going to propose to the commission, and then from there we would go ahead and just let the commission know what we.
Wow.
From there, we would just let the commission know, what we plan on doing in a public meeting, and of course, you could provide your input at that meeting or to your individual commission. But at the end of the day, I think there's going to be options that are presented. We're going to look at trying to garner as much consensus as possible. Let's all be realistic and just realize that not 100% of the server responses are probably going to be under the same option. But we'll do our best to get, go in the direction that the community wants us to, for sure.
I have one last one. What do you think the timetable is?
The timetable was provided back in the slides in terms of where we're going with the design. So you can go back to the presentation and look at that. But Priscilla, I don't know if you want to maybe just speak on what the timetable looks in terms of actually, giving the design consultant the go ahead. When does that look like?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like from feedback tonight that we do need to look at another typical section, so they're going to have to go back and look at the next rendering, okay, and provide that update. So we'll be putting out a survey here shortly. I can't tell you exactly if it's going to be this week or next week or following, but very shortly we'll put it out through social media, through the city website. We will ask folks to weigh in on the options provided. But we will give the directive tonight for the consultant to evaluate another option, okay? And that'll feed into the options provided to you via the survey. Once we get that direction from the poll, we'll have the poll open potentially for a couple of weeks so we can get a good response. We'll close the polling, and then we'll put the item on the city commission agenda for it will be a departmental business presentation. That will be, a presentation on what the results of the survey was. and that'll be the directive that we give to our consultant to move forward. The basis of design report is the next step, so they need this information to proceed with the design. So that's what we're seeking, is consensus on what typical section to proceed with for the design.
So will we hear the results will come out in that email that you're gonna send us?
Yes, so what we'll do is, we'll have the survey conducted, and we're gonna ask for your information so that you can see the results of the survey. And then if you want to participate in the commission meeting where we do the presentation, obviously you'll be welcome to that. It's a public meeting.
I think not to confuse folks, maybe put a title, new revised options post today's meeting, something that's, if they see it, then okay, these are the new ones.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take down the QR code that's up there right now. It's going to be taken down, and we're not going to advertise this until we have a. Okay, so
will some of the notification be put out by the city, such as a letter of some type? Some people don't look at internet or social media and all that other stuff. They even get involved in this.
Yes, sir. It would be pretty difficult to try to reach out to everybody via letter.
I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying everybody.
Well, yeah, that's actually a very good suggestion. We do have the ability to put some limited information on the water bill, so I appreciate that. And I think we can definitely do that once the, once the commission meeting is set, and we'll take this to commission for public comment, and we'll make sure you're all aware of the date of that public meeting, and that'll be the next public meeting on the subject.
I mean, you have to ask us to whole areas.
Yeah, unfortunately, sending letters is extremely costly. It was at 76 cents now for a postage stamp, so my apologies, but yeah.
That's why we asked you to put your contact information when you came in, so that including the email address, so we make sure that we get you. Okay, last question. Then we're going to close it.
One on mine.
Thank you very much. Michael Estrada. I've been a resident of Deerfield since 2017. My wife grew up here in the early 90s, graduated from Chai back. So, for one, I appreciate all the questions that folks had that were in the audience, because I definitely learned a lot. So that's always helpful for me. And I do appreciate the clarifications from the folks up here. I believe it's Priscilla. I really appreciate a lot of the technical questions. I'm not an expert on bridges, and I'm imagining you're more than I am, so I appreciate all the technical info as well. But I'm someone I walk and I bike around all over Deerfield Beach. One of my favorite things about town. I think that the fact that there's not necessarily a sidewalk on either end that's going to continue from it is a larger problem, but not necessarily the scope of this bridge. But I do appreciate not having to drive all the time for sure, because I don't know where everybody else gets gas, but again, this is for sure higher than it was. So I think everybody here, y'all understand the bridge. We know the bridge needs to be safe, but we really just want to make sure that this happens in a way that serves the folks that use it the most. We know the standards are the standards. I think that's where a lot of the questions are. We just really want clarity on what is the actual standard, what is beyond that extent. It does sound like one of the big concerns that comes here is the sidewalks and the bike lanes being additional traffic. I know some folks, you all addressed it a little bit, saying that you imagine it's going to really serve the folks that are already using it. So I would love to know just sort of what is the data that we have around that, as far as do you anticipate it? I know that's not the intention, but do you anticipate over the lifespan of this bridge that increasing? We know that traffic's going to increase across town no matter what in the next however many years, but it would be nice to know sort of what you anticipate happening with the bridge. And then a couple of questions. So I guess outside of safety concerns, I think that just clarity around what happens if the bridge is not replaced. We understand it should be replaced. We understand it's not necessarily meeting safety standards, etc. But what happens if it isn't replaced? What are the consequences beyond safety? And then lastly, I believe you mentioned in 2021 there's about 1,600 cars a day that are going through. So it'd be helpful to know, how many pedestrians and cyclists are included in that, because that's where it seems like the crux of this conversation is about, not so much the roadway, the standards, but it'd be helpful to know how many people and bikes are going across that daily. And again, just do you anticipate this affecting the use of the bridge? And again, we'd love to see any kind of data that you have. Thank you very much.
That was more than one question. But I'll try to address it. If I forget, just let me know. So the data that we have related to vehicular traffic, it's triggered by those little black tubes that you see going across. So it's not likely that it's going to be triggered by, someone on a bicycle or a pedestrian. So we're not going to have that data. That was one question. Your other question was just giving to me.
Building out the grid with additional space for vice versa. Do you anticipate data show? Will that affect?
No, because again, these designs, and I know this is maybe not the opinion of all, but really this was really meant to be designed for those that live in that neighborhood, those that are using it today, to provide not only vehicular traffic, also for safety for pedestrians and bicyclists. And that's what these three options were meant to do. So yeah, it's not meant to bring in anything else. We're not going to be promoting, some sort of bike drive thing. Like we're not going to be promoting. I didn't know, right? Promoting this is nothing. So good. Thank you so much.
Last question. Go ahead, online.
Hi, my name is Andres. I had a question. Let's say you get a report for the 15th Avenue Bridge and the 13th Avenue Bridge. Did you say the 13th Avenue Bridge is still considered inoperable?
No, the bridge is safe for travel. It was repaired. It was repaired because we didn't have the funding to replace it, and it is still, it's still functionally obsolete, which means that it doesn't meet today's standards for bridge construction.
Okay.
Well, you can come on up and ask after because we've been here almost 2 hours now. So I appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate all of the feedback. Again, we're all here for you. This is your neighborhood. And I appreciate everything that was said today. You can come on up and you can talk when we're done, sir. Thank you very much.